is Raina Campbell, your Chief Dream Driver, and welcome to the No Parking Podcast, where through conversations and discussions with creators like yourself, we'll find interesting approaches to help you take your dreams out of park, put them in drive, and ride towards success. Hey Dream Drivers, welcome to episode 25 of the Dreams and Drive No Parking Podcast. Today's guest is Anthony Frasier, who's an entrepreneur, author, speaker, and all-around guru when it comes to anything media, tech, gaming, startups, entrepreneurship, you name it, Anthony probably knows about it or knows someone who knows about it. On today's podcast, we talk about the idea of not dumbing down your greatness. We dive into Anthony's book, which is named Don't Dumb Down Your Greatness, and it's just full of great tips on his personal keys to success and why personal development is crucial to anyone who is trying to build a brand or who's trying to know themselves or who's trying to find happiness. You have to read this book. Honestly, I read it and I was just so inspired. Anthony keeps it real during our podcast about his own story and challenges he's faced, tips he's learned along the way, people who have motivated him and encouraged him to keep going. But remember, if you want show notes, if you want to learn more about Anthony, you want to read his tweetables from today's episode, you can go to dreamsanddrive.com and click on episode 25. If you want to join the Dreams and Drive community, our online network, please go to dreamsanddrive.com/join. If you're listening in on iTunes or SoundCloud, make sure to subscribe to the channel, rate us, leave a comment, share an episode, help us build. I appreciate you all. Keep driving, and I hope you enjoyed today's episode.
I'm happy to be here. I'm a fan of your podcast so much. You you definitely have a really great podcast. I was very impressed. I like the driving sound effect you put in the beginning. That's just dope.
Oh yeah, we gotta give a shout out to my friend David. He was the one who did that whole drop for me in the beginning. So that was definitely not anything. I could not have done that without him. I probably wouldn't even have thought to do that. So, and I love your podcast too. I definitely like the one you just put out. You saw me doing all the posting on social media. That you guys listening, you have to go check out Anthony's Disruptor podcast. Or is it called Disruptors? I feel like they're always.
I renamed it. Yeah. Okay. So it's now called Don't Dumb Down Your Greatness.
Okay.
I named it after my book, and so I felt like. Disruptor is cool, but, I was talking to a lot of people that disruptor is really kind of a tech thing. And while I am still really, really well versed in the tech industry, I felt like the podcast and the brand itself isn't necessarily tech. And so I wanted to do something different.
That's kind of like with Dreams and Drive. I still don't know if I should call it Dreams and Drive or No Parking. So I just combined them. But some people still call it No Parking while other people call it Dreams and Drive. So I guess it works as long as people are listening, right?
I like Dreams and Drive, yo. Dreams and Drive is fly, yo. Like... You can name that. That's your book name right there.
Dreams and Drive, the Raina Campbell story, or Dreams and Drive, how to take your dreams out of park and put them in drive, or whatever.
Exactly. People want to hear that. People are hungry right now. That's the age we live in. People are really, really hungry, and I'm happy because, I don't remember people being as hungry for motivation, as hungry for information as I do today. Like, I just don't remember ever seeing this eagerness to learn and level yourself up. And so I'm really proud to be on your podcast and be a part of your growth.
Thank you. And I also think that the whole idea of education is changing. Like, who do you have to go to get educated? Like, you don't necessarily have to go to the old institutions of education in order to get, quality learnings. And I think that's something that, especially our generation, the millennial generation, is definitely realizing. Like, the days of our parents and how they gathered information is totally different from how we're doing it now.
I agree with that. Like, educate yourself. It's Jim Rohn who said, education from school will make you a living, but self-education to make you a fortune. And so people out here trying to make a fortune, man. You know what I mean? So educate yourself. If you're trying to make a fortune, educate yourself. Like, to go to the library, I didn't need my mother, you know, encouraging me to go to the library. Like, I went for my own good. I was like, man, I need to soak up all this game. And so until you're self-motivated, you'll never reach your potential, your full potential. And so I agree with that.
Oh, that's going to be a tweetable for this podcast. Until you're self-motivated, you will never reach your potential. And I actually want to ask you, well, I'll ask you this, then we can get into my classic way of starting out all the interviews. But I like that you talk about the whole idea of self-motivation. How do you think, is self-motivation something that just happens to you, or something that you have to work on? Because I feel like there's a lot of people that I know that may, how you see potential in somebody, but they don't see it in themselves. Is it something that has to come from them within, or is it something that you think can be inspired in someone to become self-motivated?
It's a combination of both. It's so funny we talk about this because I was just listening to an interview earlier with Lisa Nichols, and Lisa Nichols was talking about how she wanted to save people in her family. Like, she wanted to help them become the best them that they can be. And she was like, you can't do that. You know what I mean? Because when you try to do that, you lose a piece of yourself each time. People gotta kind of come to those realizations themselves, and it could come in a number of ways. It could come in a way of like maybe a tragic event at work. God forbid it's not nothing crazy tragic, at work or in life, where something happens to you and it just changes your whole perspective all at that one time. And then sometimes it's just people who are just eager. Some people are born with that motivation to just want to be great and want to do better. And so sometimes it ain't always a tragic event that can inspire someone. Sometimes they just have it in them, since birth. It's a combination of just a lot of different things, but you can't win without it. There's no way to win without it, because you have to be your own biggest cheerleader. No one cares. You know what I mean? I seen Morgan from Blavity tweet. She said, "No one cares. Work harder." That's so true. Nobody cares. People. Nobody can. You have to be your biggest cheerleader, yo. I can't say that strong enough, and that's why I like looking at people like Kanye West and all that. Yeah, he might be an asshole, but he is biggest cheerleader. And so at the end of the day, the whole world can hate him long as he loves himself. He good, and everybody has to be that way. Do you love yourself? Then you good. And that's the reason why in my book I talk a lot about personal development, because you got to get to the point where you high off life. You love yourself. You are grinding it, because when you at that point, there's nothing the outside world. There's nothing an outside event. There's nothing an opinion. There's nothing, anything can happen or anyone can say or anyone could do to you that will discourage you.
So let's get into, well, actually, let me just be annoying and be that podcast host who likes routines. But let me ask you the first question that I love to ask everybody, because I just think it sets the stage for when people are listening. So tell me, Anthony, I know we talked before on my Brand Makers series on my RainaCampbell.com blog, but so I know a little bit about this story, but can you kind of tell our dream drivers what inspired you as a child? If I were to peer into your life as a young kid growing up in Newark, what would I see?
You definitely see a little chubby kid in school, drawing graffiti in his notebook. That's what you're gonna see. But then you're gonna see that kid go home, and on the way home, past drug dealers, past crackheads, past broken homes, past urban decay, past crack valves in the street, in the sidewalks, past broken, beer bottles. Like, so I just grew up in a very, like, when I was young, I just grew up in a very, like, I would say, harsh reality, like a harsh environment. And to be honest, that inspired me because what it did was when I would go home, I would watch TV a lot. Like I would watch, a lot of different shows that kind of helped me escape, I would say, to a different reality. And I would always kind of think to myself, like, why can't I live that way? Or why can't I visit this place? Why can't I see the world the same way I see it through this television screen? You know what I mean? And so that's just really how I grew up. And that was the mind state of a young Anthony, man, in Newark, and just kind of just, I was a curious kid, man. I was just one of those guys who always asked questions. I talked a lot. I got in trouble in school, like all the time for being a kid with a big mouth. And I got in fights all the time. It was just like, me just kind of like being bad, being curious, being talkative, just I would say normal kid, but I don't know if that's normal.
So when did things start changing for you? Maybe you can kind of give a short synopsis of, Anthony up until Fat Startup.
Up until Fat Startup, I would say, yeah, like what changed for me was that I went to when I was in high school. I wrote a letter to myself when I was a freshman in high school, and the teacher who had us do that didn't give us the letters back until we graduated. And I opened my letter, and in the letter, I was talking about how I wanted to, go to college and go for computer science so I can get into the tech industry and I can make a lot of money and help my mother and help my brother and help my family and just be someone who, they were proud of. But as I was reading that letter, I was the complete opposite. I did horrible in high school. So horrible that the only school I can go to was a county college who accepts everyone. Right? And then I was just in a bad place, man. Even though I was happy to graduate high school, I only graduated by like barely, getting by. It was to the point where if I failed one class, they would have to hold me back for a summer. And so I barely got out of high school. So it was just to the point where I just needed to rearrange my life. So I went to county college anyway. And I decided to go in school for film because I like being creative. I was that kid, like I was telling you, drawing on the notebooks and stuff like that. I like stories. I wanted to bring stories alive. I wanted to be a producer in Hollywood. I still do, kind of. Real talk. And I just took that creativity and I made a website for video games. Me and a few friends online, we got together, made a video game site, and I would do that when I got home from school. And then eventually, school just became too much for me. I had to drop out because I just wasn't focused enough. I was failing classes and I was just wasting money, because school ain't free, and so I ended up dropping out and then getting a job at Kmart. And I would, work there at Kmart overnight. And during the day, I work on my website. And then it got to the point where the website had so much traction, I was able to quit my job. I was like, you know what? I'm going to quit my job for the summer and just work on this website.
Was that Played or was that Coalition?
That was Coalition.
Okay.
I started the Coalition. This was like in 2008 when I did that. So I ended up doing that for about 2 years straight. And then I eventually saw that, this online publishing game, while it is cool and we having a lot of fun and we traveling to gaming conferences, I wasn't making any paper, yo. Like I was broke. Like I was sleeping on my mother's couch and shit. So I was just like, yo, man, I got to switch something up, man. And so I saw all these magazines and all these articles about Facebook because, this is 2008, 2009. Facebook was nowhere near where they at today. And so this is like the beginning of that era, where everybody started to say, hey, man, this tech thing might be the thing, might be the move, yo. And so like I was really early in, and I was like, I'm going to learn how to code. I went to the library every day, read a bunch of books, learned how to code, and ended up getting an internship at a startup. I'm just going to shortcut this a little bit.
Yeah.
That startup ended up
closing down.
ended up closing down.
Mm-hmm.
So I took that same I took an idea that I developed while I was working there, pitched it to an investor. He ended up investing in me. I moved to Silicon Valley, learned a whole bunch of stuff, came back home, launched my own app, and then that failed shortly after. Mm-hmm. And then I ended up founding a 5 startups shortly after that. And so it was just like a lot of learning. This is the shortcut version, but yeah, it was a lot of learning, a lot of experience in between that.
And you guys listening in can always go to anthonyfrazier.com and read up all your blog posts where you kind of go into more detail on your story. And even make sure you guys, after this, we're definitely we're gonna put a link to the book in the show notes so that if you guys want to download it, you definitely can do that. Anthony tells his story in his book, Don't Dumb Down Your Greatness. So, Anthony, you launched a Fat Startup, which was kind of like a meetup for tech enthusiasts, right? Can you kind of just give me a one-liner on what the Fat Startup was?
So it was more than a meetup. Mm-hmm. It was basically a media company that bridged the gap between hip-hop and entrepreneurship. So we would throw events. Mm-hmm. We would have online resources. We would have, courses. We had a whole bunch of media channels that basically delivered how-to, step-by-step resources to entrepreneurs who look like us.
And that ran for how many years was that in existence for?
We started that in 2012, but it started out as like a Tumblr blog. We didn't really take it seriously until like 2013, and that's when we started ramping up things and really just like, hey, this is a business. Like let's try and make some money with this thing. Yeah.
So I know earlier this year you guys sent out a letter that said that all the co-founders and the partners would be you guys are kind of doing your own thing now, right? So what was that? Why did you guys decide to not kill? Well, I don't want to say kill it. That sounds harsh. But what was the thinking behind moving on from Fat Startup and working on new projects?
We felt like we graduated, and this was in December actually. Mm-hmm. We sent the email I think January 1st, but we've been made the decision that we wanted to walk away. James, my co-founder, he actually left in September. And so, like, it was only a few, like, maybe like 3 people running the Fast Startup for the rest of the continuation of the year. And so, James being my co-founder, it was just like he wanted to focus on his family and do some things with his kids and do some things around, children. And that's what his passion was. And so you got to respect that. And me personally, I wanted to kind of do a lot of other ventures as well. And so we just kind of came to the decision maybe we should dissolve the company. It wasn't necessarily any bad blood or anything like that. It was just one of those things like, okay, well, it was just time to move on. It wasn't anything serious, but we're proud of what we've done. And to be quite honest, I'm not stopping what we've done. So, like, if you really pay attention to Anthony Frazier or Dumb Down Your Greatness or the Greatness brand in general, it's almost like a part 2, a continuation of what we were doing with the Fat Startup. And so, I'm still out there, providing resources, how-tos, and things of that nature that's helping these entrepreneurs get to the next level. Except I'm now incorporating a lot of personal development into the mix because mental strength and mental awareness and self-awareness, to me, those are sometimes the key to success more than anything else. And so I wanted to talk a little bit about that because I felt like a lot of my story, I feel like a lot of people can learn lessons from my story and what I've learned over the years. So I
think that's a good segue into talking about the actual book and some of the lessons. from Don't Dumb Down Your Greatness. And I actually, like, I had my little, I was cheap and I printed it out at work. I think I had the PDF copy, the PDF preview that you
Okay.
sent out like early
Oh yeah, we gotta
on.
send you a real copy. We gotta
Yeah.
send you. Matter of fact, you gotta come through. Come to the
I
office.
I know. So I have this like printout. It's all dusty looking now. But I see I'm somebody who I love like getting the actual physical copy of the book, because I think there's so much that, like, I'm just a physical person, so I like made so many notes. But I think your whole thing about mental strength and mental awareness is something that is a really prevalent theme in the book. But can you kind of give us like what was your inspiration behind actually saying, hey, I'm going to sit down and write this, and why did you think talking about thinking and being great was so necessary for your audience?
I think it was necessary because um, I would say really because what really got me sitting down and write it was a lot of people just got inspired by me telling my story.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was like, well, what lessons can people learn? Because I kept seeing a lot of things out there that talked about how to succeed and what real success is and all these different, messages around success. But I was like, yo, people aren't really keeping it real. People aren't being practical right now. And so I wanted to make a book that had real success in it, because to me, success is going from failure to failure without losing enthusiasm.
Mm.
And when you think about it, and that's not my quote, and when you think about it,
I was going to be like, tweetable.
that's not my quote. And when you think about it, how do you develop that kind of enthusiasm then? Because people teach you, there's a whole bunch of articles online on how to make a good business model. There's a whole bunch of articles online on how to do social media the right way and how to do all these other things the right way. But how do you learn how to not lose enthusiasm if that's what real success is? How do you learn how to not lose that? That's what I was trying to figure out. And that's what I figured out. I think I didn't even, I'm still learning. I think that's what I figured out enough to be able to give back to other individuals.
One of the things I have circled here is, I think this is in your chapter, the hater in your head. That chapter really resonated with me, because I think a lot of us dream drivers don't actually realize how we are our biggest critics. Like, we are the person who can hold us back from our success, and really getting that hater out of your head is so important. And one of the things that you talked about was how to quiet the voices. So one of the bullet points you have are: realize you are not an imposter, positive attracts positive, keep it moving, find time to relax, intend to win, don't compare yourself. But this is the one that really spoke to me: develop the art of not giving a damn. Can you, like, how did you develop that? Because I think it's something that it's one of the hardest things to do. How do you really stay focused on your goals and not really care about what others are doing and what others are saying about you or to you or anything like that?
And so it's funny. I got inspired. That chapter got inspired by I don't know if you know about Alexis Ohanian, and he co-founded the company Reddit. And that chapter is heavily inspired by him, because he has a book that's sort of the same thing, like The Art of Not Giving a Damn, I think. And so, give me a second. I'm gonna get my chair.
Were you standing up the whole time?
Nah, I wasn't. I just moved to another location.
Okay, I was gonna say, oh no.
Nah. But I think really what separates a lot of people, a lot of the winners from the losers, are a lot of the people who don't get emotional. Like, and what I mean by that is like that part where we talk about without losing enthusiasm. That's the art of not giving a damn, because every experience is one that's going to lead you to the next. Whether I failed or whether I succeeded, it didn't matter. I was going to learn, and to me, learning is winning. And so, like, that's the art of not giving a damn, because like, yo, like, I don't care. And you can apply that to anything. Building relationships with individuals. You can apply that to, a business. You can apply that to anything. You need to develop the art of saying, I'm going to learn from this experience and not really give a damn um, necessarily about the other parts of it. So.
Was there a time when giving a damn affected you? Like a time when giving a damn really made you lose out on a great opportunity?
Yeah. I mean, so like getting like for instance, there was a lot of times where I got very emotional over things that happened to me, or things that people did to me, and because I did that, I became depressed. And then when you're depressed, depression is like, I would say, wearing a blindfold. Because depression means that you won't see anything. Like, you can't see opportunity when you're depressed. You're going to be completely blind to opportunity when you're depressed. And so that's where it affected me. Because I wasn't able to see opportunity, because I wasn't able to, I would say, not be so salty about everything. Don't be salty. I should make a shirt about that. Like, but
Hashtag.
right? Don't be salty. Hashtag, like, because that's a big thing. Like, I got caught in the dumps, and then not being able to recognize opportunity is drastic. That's hurtful. As an entrepreneur, if you're an entrepreneur listening to this, you need to be able to recognize opportunities at every corner of your life. And so depression blocks that. And so not giving a damn is a way of kind of like not letting depression, not letting saltiness overtake you.
So what did recognizing opportunity look like for you once you got past that stage, and once you were able to really, I guess, work through depression, work through everything you were dealing with, and kind of come out of that moment in your life?
I mean, recognizing opportunity mean, you know what? Let me take that back. I would say attracting opportunity.
Okay.
Let me put it like that, because what will happen is when you're a happier person, people want to be around you. When you are a person who's working on your business, not really caring what everybody else is thinking, people want to partner with you. Like, people want to be around that. Like, people will help you. They want to help people who are helping themselves. Subconsciously, people want to help people that help themselves. I have a chapter in my book where I talk about Sheena Allen, who is someone who basically came from Mississippi. She has an app company, but nobody helped her. But the fact that she did all this stuff by herself, she's attracting all these other people who are saying, yo, I want to be around that kind of person. They want to be around someone like her. And so that's what opportunity is. That's when you make opportunities chase you. I talk a lot about becoming magnetic, and that's really what it's all about. Like, you want to become a magnetic person. You want opportunities to chase you. You want people to chase you. I have to be honest, like, a lot of the great things that have happened in my life for like the last 3 to 5 years have been things that have come to me, not things that I've necessarily chased.
Like what? What's one of them?
Opportunities such as being in like commercials or getting awards from like Ford, or I would say even getting a position. Like, I'm at a venture capital firm right now. And so like doing things like this, like I never necessarily chased these things. I think I magnetized them. Yeah.
But that also takes work to get to the point where you are attracting opportunities, right? It's not, you just can't sit in your room and be like, all right, I'm happy. Opportunities come to me, right?
Nah, you can't. I mean, you definitely got to work. Like, to me, it's about hustling while you wait. Like, you definitely have to hustle. Like, I got a formula for luck. And it's like hustle plus opportunity plus optimism equals luck. And to me, that's what it's all about. Like that's the formula for attracting and making like people come to you right there. And so that's the first chapter in the book.
Mm-hmm.
Like I give it to you right away. You can close the book after that actually. Like because if you do everything that's in that first chapter, you're gonna become magnetic, guaranteed.
Guaranteed. Can you guarantee? So you're saying
Guaranteed.
you're guaranteeing that to our dream drivers listening in?
Yo, if you read this book, I don't see how. If you really apply what's in here, I don't see how you don't reach some level of success for yourself. I'm being honest because my goal is to have people see success within themselves,
Mm-hmm.
not material success. See, there's a difference.
Mm-hmm.
And if I can't change the way you view success and then have you feel successful, then I haven't done my job. Because success isn't necessarily the flashy cars and the big houses and the nice clothes and the women, or for you women listening right now, the dudes or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
It's not about that. Like real success comes from within, man. And I think that once you feel successful, you'll be successful. So you have to feel successful first.
And that's where something, I think there was a point in the book where you talk about I can't even speak, visualizing your past wins, but also visualizing where you want to be, right? You have to actually see yourself
Yeah, meditation.
accomplishing that.
Yeah, it's so true. I believe in meditation. And a lot of people try to come at me and like, look, meditation is scientific. This isn't about some kind of magic voodoo thing. Like this is scientific. You have to see yourself win first. You have to. You have to visualize it. Most of the thing is, most of the opportunities, I talked about how I attracted them, but I saw them too.
Mm-hmm.
I saw a lot of things that I'm doing today, or a lot of things I've did in my life, in my visions. Like, and when I meditate, when I kind of see myself, I'm not saying that they just magically popped up on my lap. No, like I worked while I waited for things to kind of manifest themselves. But at the same time, you have to visualize it. So I don't see how you can go on this roadmap or this life without a GPS. Like, turn your GPS on. That's what meditation is, and you should do that.
And something else you mentioned in the book, which I think is important, is you have to create core values, right? You have to kind of know
Yeah.
what your personal, I guess, manifesto is. How did creating core values for yourself kind of change your outlook on success and your ability to achieve it?
It teaches you what to say yes to and what to say no to. You
Mm-hmm.
know, I compare it to like a lot of when I speak to women and stuff. Like usually they tell me like I'll talk to my cousin or something, and she always when we talk about relationships, she has this long list of requirements for the man she wants to be with. Right?
Mm-hmm.
And so those are her values, sort of, right? Like these are the things that she like because she has that list, she already knows what dudes she wants to talk to and what dudes she won't even like blink an eye at.
Mm-hmm.
And so while I don't agree with having a list like that, for people, you definitely need a list like that for your life. Like
Mm-hmm.
you need to know what opportunities you immediately will say no to and what opportunities you will say yes to. You would need to know like what fits in with your goals and with your vision. These are important because if it doesn't line up with everything that you need, if it doesn't line up with your priorities, then you need to just get rid of it, and you'll find your life going a lot easier when you have those.
Mm-hmm. Now I have a question, and this might seem a little left field, but I think, especially as a man of color, right? You talk
Yeah,
a lot about mental awareness, mental strength, personal development, and you're not talking about it in like being an athlete, because I think that's where within our culture, that's where a lot of times that kind of stuff is stressed more, right? Like, do you
yeah.
ever feel that you're an outlier when you're talking about these things within like the community, beyond the entrepreneurship community, beyond like your circle? Like, do you ever feel like this is something that we as a culture really aren't promoting more, or teaching the younger people underneath us to really learn at a younger age?
Yeah. This is something that's drastically missing from our culture. And that's the reason why I wrote it. That's the
Mm-hmm.
reason why I'm talking about it. That's the reason why I'm such a champion on it. Because, entrepreneurship is athleticism, to
Mm-hmm.
be honest with you. This is a complete sport.
Mm-hmm.
That's what Mark Cuban said, right? That's the name of his book. The sport of business or something like that. And because it is a sport. And when I was in Silicon Valley, I learned that a lot of venture capitalists, they like to invest in entrepreneurs who are athletes. They
Mm-hmm.
like to invest in entrepreneurs who were soldiers, and entrepreneurs who had to endure some kind of pain, who
Mm-hmm.
had to fight through some kind of obstacle. And usually that's what athletes have to do. Athletes lose a lot. You don't
Mm-hmm.
always win when you're competing, and so if you're not used to competing, if you're not used to getting hit, if you're not used to getting all of those kind of rough rumbles and tumbles, then you're more likely to stay down when you get hit,
Mm-hmm.
because that hurt. Imagine getting hit for the first time, by a boxer. You might stay down on the mat, but my thing is, if you've been fighting for a long time, you might eat that punch.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I think entrepreneurship is. You need to learn how to eat punches.
I think there's
Like,
actually a study out there. I know when I was at Princeton, there was like I worked in career services. So they always did like end of year surveys for seniors who got jobs, and athletes. Although they were like the busiest students on campus, they were probably had the worst schedules, worst social life. They were the ones who fared better post graduating. That was just something I always thought was interesting. Like, there definitely is a mental toughness and just a way of attacking life that you learn when you are in
word.
that type of environment.
And I had to learn the hard way. I'm not sitting up here talking to you from a pedestal here. I don't want
Mhm.
anybody to think that. Like, I'm not perfect. I'm not an athlete traditionally,
Mhm.
but I had to learn how to eat punches.
Mhm.
There was plenty of times where I had to stay down on the mat, like, yo, hold up, like that kind of hurt. But over time, I've learned how to endure a lot of that pain, a lot of that strength, and how to overcome. And so now I'm trying to reteach that so that,
Mhm.
a lot of people don't have to go through a lot of what I had to go through. And it may be hard for people to understand it. And that's the reason why I say, yeah, like a lot of people in our community and in our culture don't talk about these things, because we're talking about a whole bunch of nonsense, to be honest with you. but
Mhm.
but yeah, like this is important. Like, this isn't your Instagram motivational message. This is real out here, man. Like,
Mhm.
this is like, you really need to learn how to get out there and endure, and build up your mental strength, because it's hard. I wish, that I talked about this at my dinner table.
Mhm.
I wish growing up this was a conversation at my dinner table. It just wasn't.
Mhm. You know what's something for me that this is making me think about, like, with my own story, is when mental toughness also comes with, pushing past your comfort zone too.
Or
And for me, like, I'll be honest, I was just snapping about this earlier, is sometimes I feel like I'm so lazy, right? Like, when there's things that that if you actually put in like 10 more minutes, you might get a better result. And I
mm-hmm,
think in life, and I don't want this to come off in the wrong way, I think I've been very privileged in the sense where, like, school always kind of came easy for me, right? Like, writing has always been something I've always been good at. So I didn't have to put in as much effort as, let's say, my peers would have for certain things. I think I kind of developed this habit of only doing what was easy for me,
mm-hmm,
because I knew that I would always win when I did the easy thing. So
mm-hmm.
that's something that I'm personally working on too, is like, how do I push myself past this comfort zone? How do I push myself out of, like, where I know the formula to success, and just kind of take risk, because I think with being an entrepreneur, being a dream driver, you have to know when you want to, like, go up that mountain or go down that valley when you can't see where the road is taking you. And that's something that is so scary for me. So if any of you guys are listening, or maybe you, Anthony, maybe you can give us some tips from, like, how do you push past your comfort zone and take risk when you just... It's just hard.
Yo, you gotta push yourself. I wish it was the easier way to say it. Like, honestly, whatever you're fearing, you just have to just go head first. One thing I like to say is, like, if I'm not scared, then the opportunity isn't big enough. And so when you find an opportunity and that shit frightens you, push down on the gas harder. No pun intended. I know this is a dreams and drives. So, like, that's just real. Like, I dare you. Just do it one time. I dare you. I dare you. I'm daring you and anyone listening. Do it one time. It's going to become like a drug to you. You're going to be addicted to it eventually. Because what's going to happen is, when you push past that point of fear and you go after it, it don't matter if you fail. It don't matter if you succeed. You are going to still win, because you're going to feel like, yo, I did it. I did it. And now I can do anything. Now I'm waiting for the next thing I have to push through. I'm waiting for the next fear that I have to conquer, the next mountain that I have to climb. But you got to do it that first time. So I just dare you. Just dare yourself. Just push it through and just see what happens. Because what's happening is you scared because you're painting a picture of what failure looks like before you even do it.
Yep.
And I could tell you right now, I've always painted those scary pictures. But when I pressed down on the gas and went through it, it never turned out looking the way I've always imagined it. It never. Like, something great was always at the end of the tunnel. It was always something great on the other side of that. Like, I never did that, and it ended up being like the gloomy picture that I feared in my head. So I just dare you to just do it one time. One time. And it will change your life. That might be your moment. That might be your breakthrough moment right there.
Yeah, just thinking about it is like, oh, it's a mental thing too. It's just like, what? Why am I just... I'll tell you, Anthony. I'll tell you when I do it. Or maybe you'll see when I do it, because there'll be some kind of breakthrough and you'll be reading about me somewhere else except my Twitter feed or something. So
the breakthrough moment, that's what this book is all about. It's like, don't dumb down. Like, just press hard on the gas. Go through it and just win, yo. Like, trust me, like, you will thank yourself. You ain't gonna thank me, you're gonna thank yourself. Like, because it's all from within. Like, just do it. That's it. Nike said it right? Like, Nike
that's
said
like one of the best taglines ever. Just do it.
Yeah, I guarantee the person who wrote that tagline had no idea what he was saying. Like, he didn't know it had that impact. Like, he didn't know.
So what's some challenges? Like, we talked a lot about how you're helping others find their success, but at the end of the day, we all know there's things we're working on. Like, what's one thing that you're personally working on that you think once you can get through it, you'll be at a new level in your life?
I don't know. I'm looking for that challenge right now.
It's funny. I was listening to your other podcast. You talked about temptation. Like, that was something that you were like, see,
you be tuning in. You be tuning in. Temptation is interesting because, it's like, can you control yourself, right? Self-control is, I think, a really, 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 really big asset for entrepreneurs, for successful entrepreneurs, because it's about self-mastery, and that goes beyond entrepreneurship too. That goes for life. Like, can you lose weight? Like, for instance, I'm trying to lose weight. There's some form of self-mastery involved and self-discipline involved in that practice. And can you imagine someone who's like addicted to whatever it is you're addicted to? Can you go a week without it? Can you go a month without it? Can you master your temptations? And I think that that's one thing that I am working on, yes. And I actually think everybody should practice doing something like that. Like, what is it that's not good for you? That, like, let me master myself. Let me master my emotions. Let me take control of this. Because once you do it in one area of life, it becomes easier in other areas. And so I'm interested in applying my, all of this mental fortitude that I've earned over the years and applying it to other areas of my life where I think is needed, like my health.
Okay, one of the things when you talked about mastering the temptation and mastering ourselves, the first thing I thought about that I started yesterday, so let's see if I can make it to next week, Tuesday. But I really want to see what will happen when I stop being reactive to people who don't share my opinion. Because I feel like that's something that I just do, like with my friends, with like everybody. It's like when they don't understand me the first time or the second time, I become so obsessed with trying to prove. Like, do you get what I'm saying? I become obsessed with trying to prove like why they need to understand me.
Yeah.
And it just sends me into this like craze where I'm the only one who's getting affected. Like they could be already long gone and moved on with their life, and I'm still obsessed over like why didn't they understand that?
There you go.
I've been trying. I mean, I'm only a day in, but it's like just stepping back and realizing that like not every conversation has to have closure. Not every conversation has to go the way I want it to go. And I think that's also a little bit of knowing yourself and knowing what type of personality you have and what drives you. And I think something that drives me is people liking me. So when I basically, when they're not understanding me, I take that as, oh, now they are potentially not going to like me because they don't understand what I'm saying. So it really is. I think it's a lesson and something that if you can master it, if you can master yourself, then you'll just have so much more control in other areas of your life too.
Yeah, I mean, so in the book, The 7 Spiritual Laws of Success, Deepak Chopra, he has a practice that he tells people to do where he just says, hey, can you go 24 hours without judging anything? Like, without, whether it's good to you, whether it's bad to you, just don't judge anything. Just go with the flow. Don't get mad. Don't get sad. Just abandon emotion altogether and see how life treats you. See how you feel at the end of the day. And so he actually tells people to practice doing something. That's a form of self-mastery. In other cultures, they call it Stoic Philosophy. I talk a lot about that in my book. And the art of being stoic is the art of, basically abandoning emotion, abandoning judgment, and not really, caring and seeing things for what they are. You know what I mean? And so can you be a stoic? Can you be emotionless? Can you not judge? And that's definitely a form of self-mastery. I agree.
So what's something like we've been talking a lot about what you're currently interested in, what you're writing about, but is there a topic that you think you would love to read more about within the whole entrepreneurship circle, within the whole young creatives, young people in lifestyle that you just don't think anyone has really written yet or anyone has really addressed?
Right now, I'm listening to a new audiobook on productivity, and I'm just interested around productivity because I feel like we live in an age of massive distractions. Yo, back in the Bible days, they didn't have nothing else to do. like dudes was geniuses by the time they was like 20. Like everybody was like a wild genius because it ain't nothing else to do but like throw rocks, right? But my thing is like, we live in an age where it's like 200 things to do. And so I think there needs to be new ways to develop sciences around productivity. And so I'm really eager to see like new new thoughts and new creative processes around that.
So what's next for you? Like what's next in your funnel? Like what can we expect from Anthony in the future?
Yeah, so I'm definitely looking forward to putting out more books. I'm actually developing a new book right now. That's almost like a companion to the one I have, which is
Mm-hmm.
going to go a little bit more in depth and give step by step how tos on a lot of the things I'm talking about. And so people want more detail, and so I'm going to give it to them. And I'm even, developing it. I'm interviewing a lot of experts. I'm, developing templates, resource guides, all types of stuff that's going to be coming in the form of um, audios, videos, text. Like it's gonna be really dope. Like I'm really developing that. So I'm kind of working on that now. And I'm also an entrepreneur in residence here in Newark Venture Partners, which is a new venture capital firm in Newark, New Jersey, backed by Audible and Amazon and Prudential and all those other guys. And so I'm here providing value in the city of Newark, and I look forward to making some new announcements as well that I can't quite make just
Mm-hmm.
yet. But I'm working on a lot of little different things, but I'm mostly focused on building myself.
Okay, and you got to keep us in the loop when those big things go live so that our audience can know.
Oh yeah, everything is big. Everything you working on is big.
Mm-hmm.
Everything we working on is big. Like that's the whole. Everything is large. Even if it's small, it's big. Yeah. Like, yeah. So yeah, definitely. I want to keep you in the loop. Definitely. You can find me on anthonyfrazier.com. You can follow me, Anthony Frazier, on Twitter, Anthony Frazier on Instagram. I'm on Snapchat too, Ant Frazier. Um, Definitely don't get me on Facebook. If you hit me up on Facebook, I will not answer. Like it's not gonna happen. That's just what it is.
All right, so let's go into our lightning round. I know you've probably heard this on our other podcast, but basically, I'm going to
Yeah.
give you a prompt. It's the gear shifts in a car, park, reverse, neutral, drive, and I want you to tell me the first thing that comes to mind. Okay?
Okay.
All right. Park,
Park.
mm-hmm.
Meditation.
Reverse,
Regret.
neutral,
Stoic.
drive.
Action.
All right, you were a pro at that. You must have practiced.
Nah.
You probably wrote something down before. Everybody else is like then they give me like 20-word answers. I'm like, no, just one word. All right, and then last but not least, in order to put your dreams in drive, you have to have the keys, right? The keys to success. So
Exactly.
tell me three things that you think all dream drivers need to have in their toolkit before they hit the road.
Okay. So you definitely need hustle.
Mm-hmm.
You definitely need optimism, and I would say you need faith. Those are the three things I think. If you have those three things, you have hustle, you have optimism, and you have faith. Uh, I don't see how you don't develop everything else you need to win.
All right. And Anthony, when you feel like giving up, because I know not every day is I don't even know I don't know where I'm trying to go with this. Not every day is sunshine, if that makes sense.
Yeah, yeah.
What do you do when you feel like giving up? Like what keeps you going on those days where you just don't feel like dream driving anymore?
I would say that's a big part of my meditation. I think one thing I've learned from James Altucher that was very beneficial to me is that he said gratitude and anxiety can't live in the same head.
Mm.
And so I just, when I'm feeling really down and when I'm feeling like, I want to give up or I'm feeling just out of it, I try my best to just think of things that I'm thankful for. Because I think a lot of times people confuse abundance with prosperity. Prosperity is money and all those things and all those crazy, material wealth things that people think of. But abundance is true gratitude. Abundance means you're grateful. I'm grateful I wake up in a bed and not the sidewalk. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Abundance means I'm grateful I have, two legs and one of them didn't get blown up in a war somewhere in Iraq. It's like there are some people who will kill to have the problems that I complain about. You know what I mean? And so abundance is appreciating what you have and appreciating the life that you were blessed with and the favor that you were blessed with instead of appreciating all the bad things and putting focus on all the bad things.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's what I try to do. I try to live in the head of gratitude instead of anxiety by just being aware of all the abundance that's in my life right now and all the things I could be thankful for.
I think that was a great way to end our discussion, our chat here today, Anthony. Hopefully, everyone listening in can really start practicing more gratitude in their lives and seeing how that can just affect their whole dream drive, their whole road to success. Because that's what we all want, right? We want to have that moment where we feel proud of ourselves and we know that we did everything possible to put us one step closer to our dreams.
Word. That's all.
All
That's
right.
all.
Thank you, Anthony.
Thank you. I'm happy to be on your podcast. I hope I provided a lot of value for the listeners, and that's all I really want to do. And so hopefully, whoever's listening right now, you've learned and you took something away, even if it was one thing. Hopefully you took something away and I helped you in some way, shape, or form. And all I ask you to do is just pass it on to someone else. That's it.
All right, so that's a wrap for episode 25. Thank you guys so much for listening, and I hope you enjoyed listening to Anthony share his tips on how you can be more successful in your life. And one thing I want to say before we close out is it's important to keep dream driving. No matter what, you cannot give up on yourself because sometimes there's going to be days where you're like, where am I going? What does this all mean? But I trust that if you're consistent and persistent, you will find success. But the key is you have to define what success means to you. It's not what your mother, your father, your brother, your best friend, your boyfriend, your grandma wants. It's what you define it as. Ask yourself, what do I define success and what do I have to do to get there? The one thing that I took away from Anthony today is just how much this is a mental game too. You really have to know yourself in order to succeed, and that's something that I'm going to try to even take into my own life. Like, what can I do to really master myself and to, as Anthony said, kill those haters in your head, because sometimes we are our own worst enemies. Thank you guys so much for listening to today's episode. Show notes, dreamsanddrive.com. To join our community, go to dreamsanddrive.com/join. And if you like this episode, share it with somebody. That's the only way that we'll continue to empower others. Just keep sharing good content, keep sharing great notes, keep inspiring people, keep encouraging, and most of all, keep dream driving. Talk to you guys soon.